there! Welcome to the Big Apple School Podcast, the weekly English show where we speak about everything under the sun. The major goal of this show is to help you improve your English and, of course, learn something new. My name's Katja, I'm your host, and today with me...
I'm Gary.
And...
Ken from the Philippines.
Guys, you know, we're doing our best to be as useful to you as possible, and we would love to get some feedback about it. Subscribe to our pages on Apple, Yandex, Google, SoundCloud, VK, or any other platform where you listen to our podcast, and let us know what you think. So how can you do that? You can rate and review our podcast. You can give us stars. You can leave comments. Ask questions. We always, make sure to reply, and feel free to send your ideas about next episode. So what do you want us to talk about? What do you want to listen to? It won't take much time or effort, right? But we will really appreciate it. All right. And today it's not really just a discussion, but it's more of like a walk down the memory lane for us. And we're going to talk about events in our life. So basically just a friendly conversation about our lives. Before Gary does not look very excited right now, so just so you know.
That's how I look when I'm very excited. You just don't see me this way.
Yeah, it's
often.
Like tears of joy and smiles.
Right. Some combination of something.
And before we talk about our life and different events, let's first talk about biggest events in people's lives in general. So what can be the biggest events in total, the most important ones?
Well, let me start off by saying, the day when the day when people are born. Of course, for some people, they don't want to, say, for example, celebrate their birthday. But for others, the gift of life is the most, I would say, one of the best things ever that you could have, because not everyone gets to be born and experience life. So I would say that's, probably one of the most important things. And apart from that, I guess, the basic ones, like going to school for the first time, because, it's a combination of a bit of fear and excitement, because you never know what's going to happen.
And then you find out you have to do that for 11 more years of your life.
And then you start to hate it for some people, but I'm not saying all, because, well, personally, I enjoyed my school life.
So school, I guess we can add graduation in here when you actually finish the school after, again, 11 years of studying.
And then go to university. So depending on what major you wish to take. And it's a different kind of experience, unlike, school, because this time around you need to be more responsible, because, whatever major you take at university, it influences or affects your future job. So you got to be very careful with that.
And I guess getting the first job.
Right. You might end up teaching English.
Why not?
Right.
I'm actually enjoying it.
So be careful. That's what I'm saying.
Oh, what are you driving at in here, Gary?
Yeah, I'm sorry. Yes. Continue, Ken. Yes. Right. Yes.
So, well, graduation, of course. And once you land your first job, because it's, for you, it's probably the first time that you would earn money, and this time to actually embrace independence, because, a lot of people, they leave their families this time, they have their own lives, and, they need to plan for their future.
Yeah, become an adult. Not fun.
Adulting.
Adulting. Right. Adulting is not fun, I should say.
No fun.
All right. So why don't we actually, of course, there are lots of other events that can happen. People can get married. Some people have children. Some people move to another country, for example.
Like what
blink,
Gary
blink.
and I have done.
Right. So why don't we talk about, no, I'll give you the choice. What do you want to talk about? So I would like you now to think about the most memorable event in your childhood. So let's start with the childhood. So what comes to your mind? How you felt?
Go ahead, Gary. Take the floor.
Let's see. I would say that most of my childhood events, there were many of them that were significant, right? But as of this point, since childhood is pretty remote, pretty far away, They don't seem very big, even though they were big at the time, of course.
Well, when you're a child, everything is so big. Everything is
Everything
important.
is big, and then afterwards, it just seems to be not so big when you look back at it again. So this is childhood, yes? Well, going to school, that was big, I guess. I don't remember it vividly as being a tremendous thing as such. I changed schools, right? I think that's down the plan here a little bit, but I did change schools, and that was a big. Those were all big changes at the time, right? If you go to another school, you change neighborhood and whatever. Those tend to you have to have new friends. Everything changes. So those are big.
How did you feel when you changed schools?
I think at the time it was traumatic, kind of, sort of, but not tremendously. It was okay. I tended to, kind of find, people were good. I didn't have major problems. I wasn't bullied, right? Sometimes that can happen. That didn't happen to me, thankfully. And it was pretty smooth, actually, but it was, I know that at the time it was bumpy, right? We would say, yeah. So.
Okay, while we're still at it, because we're talking about, moving schools and, transferring, I just want to interrupt you there.
Please do.
Because, good for you because you were not bullied. But I'm not saying that I was bullied, but, I spent the first few years of my life in the village. And basically, I don't know if it's the same here in Russia or in other parts of the world, but people in the city tend to sort of look down on people who are from the village. And when I moved to Manila, coming from the village, I was in fifth grade? Yeah, that was, when I was in fifth grade. The other kids simply, they didn't really say it per se, but I could feel it. I could feel it.
I think that's very often the case in here too. When there's a kid moving from a village, some children tend to look down on them. Children are cruel. That's one thing I understood when I started working at school.
They're nasty little people.
Oh, yeah.
I thought you wanted to say something else. Nasty little,
No, of course I wouldn't do that.
Nasty little miracles.
But I must say, though, because I stood my ground, because I had a really good training at my school in the village, because if we talk about English lessons, so we were taught how to read well, orally. And I remember we had this reading class, and one time I volunteered to read a text, and my teacher was so impressed, and he said, "Wow, where did you learn this? How come you read very well, orally?" So I just said, I was taught very well
in
at
the
school.
village.
In the village, exactly.
Yeah, right. Yeah.
And
big city guy.
Yes. To be honest with you, the other kids were just jealous. It's like, oh, okay, so we have this.
Now they got another
reason to hate me.
Oh,
and that was when things, nothing like success. Yes,
exactly. And I was even invited by my teacher to go to her other classes to read orally, because I was made as a model. And when I came back to my class, they just said, "Oh, so you must feel good about yourself, yeah?" It's like,
do you feel like a star?
Exactly.
Aww.
Right. Wow. Were you a teacher's pet?
I hate to use that term because it has negative connotations.
Well,
let's just say I was.
Yes, this is your opportunity to get bullied at age.
Let's just say
undisclosed age. You're never old enough. Too old. That's what the internet's all about. It's about grown-up bullying, right? Just parts of it.
If we're gonna be technical about it, yes, I was a teacher's pet.
Okay. He's come clean. Right, now we know. All right. So, no, I'm joking. Good for you. Okay, good.
But
for you.
I must say, though, despite the initial, let's say, not so good experience, the rest of it was finally I was able to win over, most of my classmates because I have a jolly personality. I'd like to think so.
Very humble as well. Yes, we can see that.
Right, yes.
Yeah. So, it's not that rough. So,
I love asking this question in general about childhood and memorable events because different people remember different things. And when I think about my childhood, two moments, come to mind. The first one was breaking a collarbone when I was like 3 or 4 years old.
wow.
And the thing is that I was, it was not really a hospital, but, it was for kids who had tuberculosis or, thought to have. I didn't. But yeah, and I broke a collarbone and I do not know how to call her, a nurse maybe. She said, "You're fine. Why are you crying?" And then the next day my parents came and I was like, I can't, lift my arm. So they took me to a hospital. It turned out I had a broken collarbone. But what I remember most vividly is that I was lying at home watching TV and somebody, so my aunt maybe, they brought, those sweet cookies and bologna. And this was not a thing you could easily get in Yakutia at that time. I was like, is that for me? Can I actually eat it?
Wow.
I don't have to share the whole piece. And that's what I remember. I don't remember the pain. I don't remember, suffering or anything, but I do remember the treats that my aunt
The
brought.
bologna. The bologna.
Yeah.
Yes.
Baloney.
Right. Yeah, right. Yeah, it was bologna. Yeah. Or actually, there's
Literally.
bologna. Yeah, right. When they want to charge an extra $1 a pound for the bologna, they call it bologna.
Bologna.
Yeah, right. Yeah.
So, and I think, this is the most vivid memory. And the second one was also, I remember trying a banana. And I remember how much I hated it. And the whole of my family hated it. And then, that's not a big deal until 2 years later we found out that you have to wait for them to become yellow and then eat them. So, we had never seen a banana
Okay.
before. So we were like,
Yeah.
why do people like them? They're green and they, yike, not very tasty. And then 2 years later we found out that we had to wait.
See, there's all kinds of nuances in
Right.
life.
That's what I like about being a child because you're so innocent. And, the other thing is that, in my childhood, I really loved daydreaming. One thing in particular that I remember, I was lying down on the front steps of our house, and I was simply looking at the clouds, imagining myself like Superman or some kind of a superhero who could fly. And, that's the thing about childhood because you are free to dream. I'm not saying that we're not free to dream as, adults, but
Yeah, because that sounded...
Ken looked at me. I just want to. I don't want to say, Gary, that. Right.
but then again, life is much more serious as adults. And
you want to
He's
dream...
looking at me again. Right?
No, I'm just
I feel
as
I
an
don't
adult,
know.
you want to dream. You're like, okay, you start daydreaming, and then all you can think of is, my next mortgage payment.
yeah, the bills to pay, and that's why I love my childhood because I was a dreamer and I had I would say a rich imagination. And the good thing about it was my grandmother was very supportive. By the way, I don't want to set the tone to make it sound like sad, but anyway, I come from a broken family, which means that, my parents were separated. But I would say in general, it was still a very happy childhood because I never felt for a second that I was missing something somehow because my grandmother acted as both my father and my mother. And she really made sure that that I wasn't different from, most kids. So
That sounds like Russia today and Russian kids today. Grandmother is all. But yeah.
Well, a good grandmother is a very good thing, right? Yeah.
absolutely.
Yeah.
Since we're talking about childhood, what is your earliest childhood memory?
Well, the first thing that, comes to mind is when I was about 5 years old. Wait, 1990. Because I remember trying to put the calendar on the wall. And then it was a calendar that was sent by my mom from Japan. And I remember it was so colorful. It's actually a picture of nature. I don't remember exactly what it was, but it had something to do with nature. And then as I was putting it on the wall, I asked my grandmother, so what is this, 1990? And then my grandmother said, yeah, it's the year now. Ah.
That's how you learn the concept of a year.
Exactly. I was about 5 then. I guess so, yeah.
Gary, what about you?
I think the earliest I can remember, I think, and this, you got the false memory category here too, but I think this, I'm sure this is real, and I don't even know why this is even vivid. I say memory's vivid, right? And it's just that I remember being in a crib in my grandmother's and grandfather's bedroom. There was they had another room, and there was an alcove off of the, right there. And I remember being like behind bars, in this.
How old were you? What do you think?
I don't know. How old would I be?
Well, you must have been like less than 3, definitely.
Yeah, to be in a crib.
Yeah, I guess. Yeah, I would have to be really little. So I don't know. Even I don't remember anything about what it was, except that I do remember. I remember the view from there. The whole thing looked, and I would have to be quite little because the alcove wasn't very big. And but anyhow, but there was nothing attached to it. It wasn't like
just a random
picture
thing, or memory.
Yeah.
Because I tried to remember mine, and I think I have almost the same situation. And I don't remember the event.
You were in the crib too?
No. I remember, I remember like the floor and crawling. But then again, I, after that, thought about that. Was it really my memory? Or was it a false memory? Because, we sometimes can have false memories. But in general, it's interesting that usually the first memories that we have, they, go back to the age of between 2 and 4, probably. Because at that time, we start to identify ourselves as I. So, how little kids, they do not realize it's them in the mirror, for example. They don't say that they exist. It's like I.
Self-awareness.
Yeah. So, and then they say that by the age of 2, they start to realize it's them. They have this sense of self-awareness. So thus the memories somehow start to form. But what events or feelings maybe do you think we are most likely to remember? I mean, when we're kids and in general.
I think the ones that truly made us happy. Of course, for me, personally, the ones when I was, say, for example, with my friends, with other kids, I mean. And of course, some huge celebrations where I had toys, lots of food to eat. And speaking of which, I just want to give this one as an example. When I was 7 years old, that's probably, I would say, the happiest birthday in my childhood, because I remember there were lots of guests, and one of the friends of my grandmother, she gave me a furniture of table and chairs for my action figures. Aww. And I would never forget that, because when it was given to me, I thought, what is this? And then I realized, oh my God, I'm gonna have Batman and Spider-Man sit down over here. I was just so happy. I was over the moon.
They rang the bell with the gift, yeah.
Right. Exactly.
Right, they didn't even know it. They probably, yeah. But they did.
Wow. So we can say some strong feelings of happiness maybe, so that we are more likely to remember. I think we can add fear and, negative experience too. Because, a lot of people, they remember very vividly when, for example, a dog was running, at them. So even though they were like 2 years old or 3 years old, because they were scared.
Traumatic experience.
So, yeah. But even when it's not that traumatic, as such, but for example, you were in a shop and you thought you lost your mother, for example, but then she was just like,
right.
not far away, but you still, that was a shocking experience. So you're kind of more likely to remember that.
Sure.
Yeah. But what about these false memories? How can these form? How can these appear? It's not just like,
I've noticed that a lot of memories, I think if you see a picture of some, like if you see pictures, right, that you can, you build everything around the picture. You don't actually remember the event, maybe, in my case anyway, I'm just talking for myself, that you maybe don't even remember the event, but the picture puts it there. And not that that's a true memory, but it's like everything is actually coming out of that picture. And were it not, if we didn't have the picture, maybe I wouldn't even remember the event or the, you know, something else that you might learn from the picture, right? But because it's there. And so I have, you know, my dad was kind of a hobby photographer, right? And so as a baby, he took pictures of me as a baby. Of course, I don't remember that, but I've got a lot of pictures of me as a baby.
Wow.
With hats on. I mean, bunny ears. I mean, it's classy stuff, you know. I mean, you know, first rate things. But then, you know, going later on, there's all kinds of things that I mainly remember probably from the pictures, which is not false memories. I guess I'm not talking about that. I think the problem with false memories is you don't know they're false.
Exactly.
Right? That's the
exactly.
thing.
Yeah, it's you kind of convince yourself.
And if pictures, you know, is usually something that helps you to remember, but what if you hear the stories about your childhood? Are they real stories?
Yeah.
So, you know, because people, again, we as people forget details. So you hear the story over and over again from your parents or other people, but what if they have forgotten something?
Or added to it.
Or added to it.
Yeah, that's right,
Have you ever heard about the story of Jean Piaget, who was a Swiss psychologist? Because he gave an example of these false memories. Because when he was a little baby, he had a nanny. So, and he vividly remembered the situation when someone tried to kidnap him while he was in a stroller and the nanny fought the man. So, and later, and of course, he's been told this story, you know, hundreds of times by everyone. So, and then later when they came home, his nanny and him, so the nanny was given a watch as a reward. So, and then, you know, the story was told to everybody and by everybody. But then 15 years later, the nanny returned the watch saying she had made everything up just to get the reward. But he remembered vividly her fighting the man.
Sure.
So because
it
this
just came out of the story. Yeah.
So, and this, I think this was actually the reason why he started to look into the topic of memory in general. Because
I think memory is very, very undependable. I mean, if you want to actually know what it was, it's pretty undependable. And you know, we're story makers, right? I mean, it's just what people do. And so we fill things in, and this has also been studied every which way. And, you know, so we just, I mean, it has all kinds of other implications for like criminal situations and all of this. It's very, very undependable. And as an adult, I try to write things down. Only because which is a part of that part of that that I'll admit to. That's the part where a little less dreaming and a little more this is what actually happened. But anyway, so I think there's a lot of false memory.
But we won't find out because we think they're real. You know, it's interesting to talk not only about our memories and false memories, but collective memory as well. You know, when we remember the same thing as, you know, a group of people and then that turns out to be wrong. Because I don't know, maybe that's now happening a lot because of the social media or because of the internet. But one of the examples that I have, I don't guess you have watched Star Wars, perchance.
I have watched Star Wars.
You have?
The original.
Just one, I guess the first two or three.
Maybe a couple.
You have. So do you remember the moment which is quoted everywhere, which is, "Look, I am your son. Oh, look, I am your father."
Yeah.
Sorry.
Yeah. Was that in the first one? No, that was in like the fourth one. That's later.
No. That was actually in the second one.
Yeah, I didn't see the second one. But
So,
anyway,
I mean, the
obviously.
fifth one. So the second one that came out, I mean, in 1980 something.
Mm-hmm.
So anywho, So we all remember this phrase like, Luke, I am your father. It was never there. So it was never these words. But still, millions of people remember it like that. The same situation in a Russian cartoon. There was a cartoon which is called A Kitten Named Wolf. And there was one moment which we all remember sounds exactly like that. But again, it was never there. And some people even, took the liberty to contact the producers and ask, like, was there ever any other variant, any other version shown on TV? And they said, no, this is the only one, the original. So why? How come that we remember as not just as a group of people of 10 people, but millions of us, this same phrase?
It gets some form that's easy to remember, and that's the form, right? But it's not actually what was there. It's a variation. Right?
Mm-hmm. So memory is a fantastic and, mysterious thing. Just as our brain is.
And it's not always reliable unless you have concrete evidence to, back it up.
I think
to make a claim.
I think that's why I like Instagram so much. It's like a little diary. I take a picture so later I can see the picture and the day. Well, now that we don't really print photos, so we can't remember. Actually, my mom and I in December, we went through old pictures. And some of them were, kind of signed. The date was written on them on the other side. But then sometimes I'm like, Mom, who is it? When was it? Oh, what year is it? She's like, I have no idea. She just couldn't remember. She's like somewhere in the 70s, early 70s. I'm like, wow, so helpful.
Right. Yes. Right.
That's what makes me jealous of, the generation of today, because social media is out there at the early stage of their lives. And so they can record everything and save them digitally, unlike back in the day when, we use this a camera where you have to go to to have it,
developed.
Developed, exactly. And I don't even have the copy of the films anymore. I don't know where they are. And we didn't have this habit of writing down the date on the back of the picture. So every time I see these old photos, it's like, how old was I in this photo and in what year? Clueless.
We even had a little bit of not an argument with my mom, because there was a picture of a baby and I'm like, that's my sister. She was like, no, that's you. I'm like, Mom, this is black and white. When I was born, you had a Polaroid, so that would color. She's like, no, that's you. I'm like, no, that's my sister, because we looked identical as, if you look at the pictures. So
right.
Nope. We still could not, come to an agreement. I still think that was my sister. My mom thinks that was me. Yep. She's like, I don't know, but it looks like you. I'm like, we look identical.
Yeah. So I can't even imagine having everything documented. I mean, that would be just socially or just every way, that would be really, really, really different. Mm-hmm. Right? I mean, that would give you something to, connect to. Theoretically, right? Going back, you can look back. And usually you got nothing. You got a few pictures. I sometimes would write things down at the time, and but whatever I didn't write down, man, it is gone. I mean, it's virtually gone, which is what happened to your mom. Is for her, it's just a blur. That's what a lot of this stuff is to me. Even the big events and things that were kind of major, I'm a lot older than you are. And it does make a difference. It just turns into this kind of, it's like my childhood. I remember more the generality of it. I remember being able to play outside and, out till late, just running around being a kid. And, I remember that more than any of the,
specific details.
Yeah. And like plants were real things, flowers, bees and flowers, bees and plants, that was a thing. And, insects were real. I mean, they were my buddies, they were they were my pals. And I mean, it was a serious thing, and then that I remember, but, to get even into the, the events being important, it kind of becomes a blur.
I sometimes wish we had taken more pictures as a family, because later, what else are you going to have later? It's pictures and maybe videos.
that's why now I do the documentation and I take it seriously. I have, if you open my computer, basically I have different folders there. They have the specific year, the specific events. So with, the exact title. So that every once in a while, or when I'm in the mood to go down the memory lane, sort of nostalgic, I just go back to those photos and then boom, oh yeah, I remember, of course, this happened in 2017, in summer of 2017 when I spent, time with my friends, blah, blah, blah. So I wish I had that, option or opportunity when I was a kid. At least, some digital proof that will remind me.
Yes, right.
Because recently,
you were a child, Ken. I'm sure you were. Even if you don't have digital proof.
Yeah, I know, but I just want to be more precise about the dates, the time,
I understand. Yeah, I completely understand. Yeah.
We recently tried to remember, every New Year celebration, the last 10, 11 years with my family. We couldn't. We had to actually dig up photos and different files to remember who was where on a certain New Year and everything. Of course, when you think back every year, let's say 2020 or 2019 and so on, you'll remember one, probably two things that happened, the biggest events of the year. So let's say 2019, you'll remember like, oh, this happened, this event happened. But very often we do not remember most of the time, but just like one or two biggest events.
Right. Yeah. Well, I am methodical about about writing things down now. And
wait, Gary, do you keep a diary?
I yes, a digital diary. Yeah, I use a.
That's good.
I use an app, for that, and I have an amazing number of. I have. Would you believe? Guess how many entries I have in my. Guess how many?
When did you start keeping it?
I started it about 10 years ago.
10 years.
In this form, almost 10 years ago, 9 years ago maybe. Guess how many?
In the hundreds?
I think it's in the thousands, like 2,000?
Even thousands, yeah.
Try 60,000.
60,000?
Oh my God.
So, Ken, if you think you're weird, with your couple dozen folders.
60,000!
That's... and you know the number. I mean, so you must keep track of it.
I'm going to actually demonstrate this in a dramatic... Of course, on a podcast audio, you lose the drama.
Yeah,
but
they won't be able to see it. Oh my goodness, yeah.
I don't see.
60,000.
Oh my goodness. Wow. But that's
that's the kind of person that you
But
that's
I think
my
that's
problem.
I think that's amazing because later
another symptom of my problems.
But later on you can just, choose the date or the month or the year.
You can search it,
And since it's digital, it makes it easier to browse and easier to go through.
And I've gotten more and more what I choose to capture. So a lot of it's practical, but like if whatever you've done, if you bought something or whatever the thing was, or met with somebody, talk with them, you can just search, and if you know roughly the date and so forth, or you don't, then it just pulls up all of the.
Yeah.
But Gary, do you really exactly remember the details? Because let me tell you,
I don't remember the details. No, I mean I remember. I remember when I do. Yeah, I do at the time. Yeah.
Because a month ago, when I went back to my digital diary as well. Well, by the way, I don't do that anymore today. But when I went back about 10 years ago, and then I was just, I just wanted to see what I was like and what I was thinking at the time. And then I tried to open one entry that was back in 2010. And then I read some names like, who are these people? It's like, I basically wrote about them. I said, oh, I'm not going to miss you, blah, 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 blah. So it was like a rough day for me.
And you're right. You don't miss them.
Definitely not.
You were completely correct. Yes.
But I was trying to
Memory
remember.
Erased. Yes. Right. They're gone.
Well, that's how our memory works, I think. When we feel like we don't need to remember that anymore.
No, or even if we do, it's gone. So it doesn't matter what we think.
That can happen too.
Yeah.
That can happen too.
That happens too. I've got,
Yeah, we saw. What do you have?
Well, no, but what I'm saying is that you'll just come up with stuff that you don't even remember the person.
Yeah.
Right. I mean,
that
and it was obviously somebody that was significant enough
to make it to the diary.
Yeah, to make it to the diary. You don't have to be very significant to make it to my diary, trust me.
All right. But that's about memories and childhood memories in particular. And why don't we talk about a different event, an important event in everybody's life? The first job. So what was your first job ever?
Oh my God. I was, I think 19 years old when I got my first job, but it was a part-time job. I was still finishing my studies at the university. I was a remedial teacher. Basically, the job involves assisting students with their homework, projects, or with their exams. That was my very first job. And to be honest with you, so I've been teaching for a very long time now, to a point that I don't even know what other jobs I can do. Like sometimes I ask myself, is that all that you can do? Like besides being a teacher, what else can you do? I've never had any other jobs in my life, really.
Interesting. Not even when you were like a teenager and you wanted to make some money?
No.
No.
I didn't work as a shop assistant, never, waiter, no, whatever. It's just teaching.
Wow.
And I remember when I got this job, I was so happy because I thought, oh my God, for the first time in my life, I'm going to earn, money from my own hard work.
Aww.
But I was I was too stupid then because...
Weren't we all at the age of 19?
Well, the thing is, back then, Nokia was on top of the game. It was like the iPhone of today. Yeah. But it was like iPhone of, in that era.
Yesterday.
Exactly.
Right,
so
yes.
I was too stupid to actually save up my money just to buy a new Nokia phone. And I remember it was Nokia 6600. That was way back 2005. I worked for about 4 months, I guess, 4 or 5 months. I worked really hard just for that stupid phone. And guess what? Where is Nokia now?
I mean, no judgment, of course, but what about people who get a loan just to buy a new phone now?
Okay, they're more stupid. So I'm not that stupid.
I said no judgment. This is judgment
I'm so
free,
sorry.
please.
I want to make you feel good about yourself, Ken. You're way smarter than those people.
Oh, God. All right, Gary, what was your first job?
Well, my first job was, I worked for my dad. My dad had a business, and so I was doing things there, which is not like a real job. It's a real job when you go and work for somebody else. So my first job was... Unlike Ken, right? I came out of the blue collar, hardworking proletariat. I worked in a restaurant. I was a busboy. Busboy is a highly untrained professional, not professional person who cleans dishes off of tables and carries them back in the kitchen. And
how old were you?
I was, believe it or not, actually, this might be, I would have been maybe like 16, 17.
Okay.
I mean, I was working a little bit under my level, but it was fine. But yeah, that was my first, and it was not a great, was not a great job. Not a professional.
I think first jobs very often are non-professional. You just do that,
right.
To make some money for the first time.
Get a job. Yeah, it was a summer job.
Yeah, because my first job was also a summer job. This, like ticket collectors on a bus. I worked from 7 a.m. till 9 p.m. And I was 11.
Oh, dear.
Oh, my goodness.
Wow. Child labor. Where's the child? Protect this child.
Not in Yakutia at the time. Definitely not. But yeah, I was so proud of myself that at the age of 11, I could make, 250.
This little child freezing. It's
no, it was summer.
It's 44. I was assuming it was 50 below zero.
No,
old freezing bus.
No, it was, 35-degree heat in an old bus.
I don't know which is
But
worse.
yeah, but I was so excited. It was my first job. And, I felt so proud of myself that by the mid of summer, I was able to buy my mom a gift for her birthday with my own money.
Wow.
I was like, and I still remember it was 250 rubles for the whole day. And 300 rubles if you didn't eat, if you didn't have lunch.
250 rubles for the whole day. So this was in what year? This would have been in the 90s. Yeah, mid-90s.
2004.
2004. Okay, I was going to say 250 rubles in a given period of time. It would have been big money. Right?
No. It wasn't. It wasn't.
Okay, 250
But still, I was very, very proud of myself.
Well, sure you should have been.
I would have been too.
Yeah, but that was it.
Wow, at 11 years old. So did your mom pack you a lunch, or did you have to just
no, we bought
hot doggy, right?
Yeah, basically it was it was not really fast food, but at when we had breaks, in the place where all the buses stand, there was some people who cooked at home and brought it there and they sold it. Okay. So now when you look back, it might not sound very hygienic, because you never know what conditions they cooked that in. But yeah, I was very, very
35 degree heat probably keeps it fresh. So
right? Absolutely not suspicious and not dangerous at all.
Right. No germs would possibly breed at that temperature.
No, absolutely. So yeah. And what about your, let's say, most memorable travel?
Right. Some silence there. Gary, do you want to go first?
Gary looks at Ken like, please go first.
Ken, why don't you start us off here?
Okay.
Chivalry.
I would say one of the most, but definitely not the most memorable. Because, I've been to different places, and I would say a lot of them, they were really memorable. But one thing in particular, I guess, the first time I went abroad, that was in 2010 when my Korean dad, that's how I, referred to him. Actually, he was my student because I was like his private teacher, English teacher. So he sponsored me and another tutor because, well, he was rich.
Yeah, we got that.
We all went to Vietnam, and I was just so happy about it because I thought, oh my God, for the first time in my life, I'm going to go to another country. And we went to Ho Chi Minh. We visited World War II memorials. We saw, I forgot the religion, but it's some kind of a local religion, not exactly Buddhist, but anyway, we went to the temple. What else? We went to the Mekong River. It was all memorable because, for a first time and to be in another country, for me, everything was new and I was so excited. And the good thing about it was I really enjoyed it because I didn't even have to plan. Unlike now, whenever I travel, I always have to make sure that I have to pay for this and that. But that time, it was all for free. So,
all right.
Yeah.
Free vacation, yeah. Let's see. Travel. I would guess I could say coming to Russia, that was a thing. I will say that. But I would say maybe in a sense, the first time that I just got in my car, this was as an adult, really older than I should have been for having this being the first time that I did this. But I got in my car and I just kind of went on a vacation, and I drove to the East Coast to the United States, and I drove around a few places.
You drove to the East Coast?
Yeah, it's not far from Ohio. It's not a big deal, but I just hadn't done that, and I hadn't actually done the sort of travel thing. I don't know why I didn't do that. I guess it was because it was just on my own or whatever. And I mean, this was later. This was, I don't even know what year, but and that was memorable just because I realized, wow, I could do this. I mean, it's stupid, but I this is something I could. This is something I could do. And it was kind of a revelation in a way. and then of course I did do that, and it was good and interesting and all that. But it was just the United States and just the East Coast and nothing spectacular, but just the fact of going, right? And
How long did it take?
well, it's 500 miles from Cleveland to New York City, and then you go north. Is how I did it. So that's like a day's drive across Pennsylvania to get to New York, and then it's another, 5-6 hours to get out of New York and into other places. So
where did
not
you-
even 6 hours, of course, to get out of there. A couple of hours, but
So where did you go? You drove from
I just
Cleveland
drove.
to
I
New York
drove from
City,
Cleveland.
and then
Well, I did, around New York. I wasn't going to New York, but just up to New England, and just I'd gone to college there, but I hadn't returned there just as a travel thing, and so I was doing that for the first time, and it seemed like there was just something I discovered that I could do, even though I obviously could have done it much earlier. And I'm sure everybody that I knew had already done this, or the equivalent of it. And, but anyhow, so that was just sort of just the thing of breaking a barrier or something, or discovering a new thing. And then, of course, going to Russia is just a small thing compared to that.
Sure. Not a big deal.
Right.
Especially going to Magadan.
Yeah, sunny
You know?
Magadan, yeah. Well, the sun always shines there, at least at least in July, right? Most of the time.
Oh my.
About 20 hours.
I think mine was in 2013 when I went to London. Even though that was not my first trip abroad, because in 2011, my mom and we went to China, but that was my first travel abroad alone. And I was very excited. I was a little bit scared because, alone.
Yeah.
Wait, how old were you then?
I was 20. So, I had to look up all the places and where to go. And I think that was very the most memorable, not only because it was my first travel alone abroad, but because first, I still remember this. So one of the first places that I went to was the National Gallery. And being from a very small town in Yakutia and then moving to Novosibirsk, which despite being the third biggest city, does not have much art, I went to the gallery and I saw, Monet, Van Gogh. And it was not just a copy or a picture of a picture, but it was the original. I was like, they actually made this. I am looking at what these people made with I think I spent like 5 hours there, really. And I have been to the National Gallery within the 2 weeks that I spent in London. I visited it 4 times, I think. I just couldn't stop coming there. It was so shocking and unbelievable. And later, when I later went to Boston and went to a museum with a local, I was like, wow. And she's like, yeah, okay, yeah, well, Monet, cool, Picasso, fine. I'm like, you don't understand the treasure that you have, because people live in places where they don't see any art. So yeah, that was just fantastic for me. Yeah. And what about holidays? So can you think of the most memorable holiday? Maybe that was New Year's, Christmas celebration, or your birthday, or Independence Day. I do not know. You tell me.
Well, Gary?
Yeah, you already
I just love it how they look at each other like, you go first. No, you go first.
Yeah, I remember, again, I'll just make the generalization. I'm sure it's my age, probably just me, but I tend to remember kind of the overall thing, and maybe not so many, one specific event. I remember family holidays, and again, this has helped a lot by pictures. I don't even know what form this would have if we didn't have some pictures of these holidays. When this would have been with this would be my grandparents' generation. Everybody was alive, and I had a kind of a big family in that generation. So my grandmother had like 5 brothers and sisters.
Wow.
Yeah, which is a big family. They were second generation, so they immigrated as a kind of I guess probably they had the children. Children were born in the United States, but they were from Saxony, Germany, and my great grandmother never spoke English at all, and but anyway, her children, who were now my uncles and aunts, they were all sort of in a good healthy age and all of those things. And my grandmother, my father's mother, was a tremendous cook. My other grandmother was quite the opposite, but she was she loved to cook, and so for her to have 15 people in and make a big turkey, and
she's like, that's my time to shine.
I mean, she was just in her element, and we would say in her glory. That's what we say. Is she was doing her thing, and I mean, so just this giant table of food, and sort of the circle unbroken, as they say. You know what I mean?
Wow.
If you know the song, and just being a little kid. And, you're just sitting there with all this food and this big plate in front of you, and just, everything is wonderful, and all that stuff. It was kind of great.
That reminds me of our family gatherings too. That's why I miss my childhood so much, because, for example, in my case, we would celebrate the New Year in Manila. So coming from the village, we would all fly to Manila because we have relatives there, and everyone was present. And, it's not even about all the toys that I would receive because, hey, it's New Year's Day, and basically kids, it's like a field day for us because we receive, different presents. But more than that, the atmosphere and the fact that you get to see your other relatives and everyone is in a celebratory mood, that just makes me so damn happy. Which unfortunately today, I don't think I have that opportunity. Well, I'm not in the Philippines at the moment. So yeah, I just missed that time, especially New Year. Yeah. That was back in the early 1990s. That beautiful decade.
Aww. I have a bit of a difficulty to say which one was my most memorable, because if we think about, the time that I was the happiest, probably that was New Year of 2015, because I remember mentioning it before. I was in London. That was my second trip there. And I had dreamed about seeing the fireworks in person, and I did. And that was spectacular. And I was even crying because of how happy I was. But if we, now that I think about it, I think I want to remember, other than any other holiday, the New Year of 2015 then. It must have been 16. Yeah, 2016. Even though it was kind of boring, just the New Year celebration 2016, we just, had some salads, ate, watched the TV, the president's speech. But that was the last New Year ever that we celebrated as a family, as a whole family. And if I had known that it was that it would be the last one, I would probably, take more pictures or make it more memorable. But alas, so now I want to cherish this exact holiday, and not any birthday, not any travel, because I also thought maybe I can say that my birthday in New York City was, one of the most memorable. But I understand that I don't want to remember that as vividly as that New Year. So speaking of, so do you think, because we have talked about happiest moments, amazing moments, but what do you think about bad and sad situations? Should we remember them, or should we try to forget them and erase them from our memory, or should we keep them since they're still, a part of our life?
It's part of our history. And I think that, we shouldn't be in denial of those things, because after all, we're still going to learn something from those events in our lives. As much as, the memory might be painful and we would like to forget that, but it helps shape our humanity for us to become real people and to understand life better. Because, for example, in my case, I've already mentioned it earlier about my parents, separating. And there was a part in my childhood when sometimes I would question, like, why do other children have their own, parents? And every time I would go to school to get my report card together with my aunt, I remember specifically, I had this classmate. He wasn't exactly the smartest. Well, to put it, lightly,
Mildly,
or to put it mildly. But I remember his mom was so happy and even proud of him. And I was thinking to myself, like, how could you be so proud of such a student?
such a complete total failure. Yeah.
Well,
how can this possibly
it's
be?
His words, okay, not my words. So, anyway,
all right,
but
sorry.
you get what I mean. And I don't know.
We
maybe
got
I was
what you meant. Yeah.
maybe I was just jealous at that time, because it's like no one's proud of me. Like, where's my mom? Where's my dad? They should be with me, but unfortunately, I didn't grow up with them. Instead, it was my grandmother who looked after me. But anyway, she made me happy, even though my childhood was not exactly complete in a traditional sense that that I had my parents. But anyway, I promised myself that no matter what comes to me in life later on, that I need to have a strong, I need to be courageous, because now as an adult, I can say that I'm mature enough to face the challenges in life. And life is not always colorful with rainbows and unicorns. You have to face it, realistically, that there will always be challenges. And not all events in life will be nice or beautiful. Sometimes you need to cry.
Gary nods approvingly.
I do. Now, Ken, you're okay.
Yeah.
It's all okay.
So in
I'm
your
all right.
personal rating,
Right, yeah,
now Ken, okay.
Right.
Good job,
we're
Ken.
all okay. Yeah. Katya, you too.
Oh,
And
Ken
what
definitely
about
has
me?
got
No.
some brownies points, right now.
I'm looking for approval. No. I've already lost it. No. Well, one of the benefits of things in the past becoming a little bit less distinct, but you sort of remember the whole thing, is that whatever the not great things were, which of course were there, they kind of also blend in. And it's just part of the, as they say at the National Gallery, what would a great picture be without some shadows?
Yeah.
Right?
Amen.
Yeah. And it's just the way it is, the way the whole thing works. And I've been, blessed by having things generally be, not traumatic and not having to work through very much, and it's just the way it is. And, whatever happened, that doesn't mean everything's been rainbows and
And
unicorns,
unicorns.
Yeah, right. To quote Ken's phrase, but no, it hasn't been that. But far from that. A little light on the unicorns, not too, rainbow's a little dim. Right? Just one color on that rainbow, and it's gray. No, but still, it all does kind of blend together, and it's okay. It's good. I mean, it's all
part
good.
of life.
Yeah,
it's a part of life. So we just should, embrace it. Do not, live in denial that, no, that never happened. I don't want to remember that, because it is what it is.
True.
Yeah. All right. Wow. That was an interesting talk. I think we learned a little bit more about each other. I like it, getting closer, All right. So that was the Big Apple School podcast. And today we discussed memorable events, our childhood, the happiest moments, and whether or not we should remember the sad and not as pleasant moments of our life. So thank you for listening. And remember, if you struggle to understand our conversation, you are always welcome to our website, which is bigappleschool.com/podcast. You can find full scripts of each episode there, so you can read and listen, and it's done, in a very convenient way. So don't be afraid that you'll have to read, 15 pages of a text. No. Also, if you want to get more content which will help you learn English, you can follow us on the social media such as Instagram, VK, YouTube, Telegram, basically everywhere. Just search our name, which is again, Big Apple School. So that was Katya, and my guests for today were...
I'm Gary.
And...
Ken.
Stay tuned, and we'll see you around.